in another time and place, I would report this information to you. On YouTube, I would say, this is the information, and these are the people providing me with this information about said business, this business operation that they're running. Not too long after I gave you this information ended up on YouTube and other people heard it, they would go to the police and these people's door would be kicked in and they would be raided and everybody would go to jail. But instead in Canada, Canopy Growth is growing dope. They're growing a whole bunch of weed all the time. They're growing weed hand over fist. Is anybody going to jail? No. Does that retroactively get anybody that maybe served time before for this out of jail? No, it doesn't. But these guys, they're pushing dope something fierce. I don't know how this is going to affect the report we talked about last week that came out in the European Journal of Preventative Cardiology, I believe it was. It said marijuana smokers, that they just over 1,200 people were in this group of people that they monitored for, I believe it was over 10 years. 3 times more likely to develop hypertension that can be fatal, heart disease. I mean, we're talking about, there was no correlation between heart disease and marijuana smoking before I ever read this report last week that was relatively highly reported on. How does that affect legalization and the consumption of marijuana for, not for recreational purposes, because I'm pretty sure that's still illegal, but the consumption for medical purposes, medicinal purposes, whatever you want to call it. I don't know how that's going to affect it going forward or the regulations, but Canopy is definitely the biggest in Canada. They reported earnings today, earnings per share of minus 3 cents. So they're losing a little bit of money, but as we go down this, and they've been up and down their price, it's a pretty speculative sort of thing. We don't know license-wise how many licenses there's going to be, if it ever does come to the point where it's all systems go for selling it at 7-Eleven or whatever. We don't know what it's going to be, but right now we know that there's not a handful, but there's 20 plus licenses that are spread out amongst, it's not 20 companies, because there's multiple licenses that a couple companies hold. So it's not a ton. It's not a ton, and this is definitely the big one. So Canopy revenues $15.87 million. That's up 127% from this year. This quarter last year. That's a lot. That's a lot of dope. They're selling a lot of drugs to people, apparently. Apparently they're, the gel caps, some kind of, I guess so you're not smoking it. I don't know if that helps, hurts with the heart disease thing. They never actually talked about if it was the actual plant matter that was being smoked or if it was something in the actual cannabis that was getting you high. They never mentioned it. But either way, Canopy attributes a lot of the growth to some of this gel caps. So I imagine it's more in the edibles category, something like that. So point to harvest. So that's everything up to the harvest part. 76 cents a gram is our price point. 4th consecutive quarter below $1. So they're definitely getting it together. 76 cents a gram. Probably, I've seen from the research I've done, I've seen $5, $6, $7 a gram, depending on pricing for that day at whatever dispensary. But I don't know, a dispensary's then probably adding on their own on top. I would imagine they're not. I don't know if Canopy sells directly. I think they're a supplier to dispensary. You can correct me on that. Click the subscribe button. Feel free to talk to me in the actual comments. I'm pretty sure though that they're the grow op. Then on top, then it goes out into the next level. I don't believe Canopy's at the retail level. So they sold 1,830 kilograms of marijuana. That's up 86%. Nobody's doing any time. No time done. Grow it, sell it, 1,800 kilos. Man, and these guys aren't even doing this through the port of Miami on a speedboat. This is in the 80s. Nobody's got a Don Johnson collar shirt. None of this is happening. None of this. They're just doing this. They just got a giant farm growing weed. They harvested 5,500 plus kilos. That's up 196%. So every one of these percentages, and this is why I wanted to cover this, because A, this marijuana topic is quite controversial. Canopy's the large one up here. Their stock definitely is a mover and a shaker. It's it's come back down and settled more than it was running. Like, it was running up around $10 before, but it's settled back down around a price that's a little more. I can understand the speculation being at least at this price, especially, okay, so you get a lot of these numbers. These numbers aren't, I don't know what's going to happen ultimately, how the dominoes are going to fall, but 127 on the revs, 86 on the kilos sold, 196 on the kilos harvested. And then you talk about, like we said, the price per gram being down. It's $1.28, I think they said, a gram before the shipping comes in. And that's compared to, before the shipping, they end up paying shipping. That's, I think, $1.64 last year in the same quarter. So, I mean, they are improving in every category you could imagine already. The number one guys there. The question is where does it go? How does it become profitable? And I would imagine that's only through legalization. And then how many competitors does that add to the market space? How does it all play out? I have no idea. This is definitely speculative. This is something that you should... I wouldn't recommend even worrying about the research. Just kind of keep an eye on it. See how it plays out. As the dominoes fall and things change, then speak to a licensed professional financial advisor. Do your due diligence, your research. Please, please. This is the money you work hard for. Think it through. But you could always just get really high. Just do whatever you want. That's what these guys are doing. They seem to be figuring it out. I have no idea. I have no idea. I know that Canopy is making some moves. They're in the news a lot. Does it turn into anything? It hasn't turned into any profit yet.